It's been a very long day, and I think I've had my fill of idiots in armored suits telling me what to do, so if you don't mind, this is actually your last chance. Now get out of my way.
Glorious Purpose is the first episode title of Loki Season 1, Episode 1. Now, we got access to Episode 1 and 2 early, which makes the ending of this episode harder to explain because I've seen the ending of Episode 2, so I can tell you exactly what is going on, but I can't spoil anything, so I'm not going to go into that much detail about what exactly it is. So, the first episode runtime is 51 minutes with credits, and it didn't feel too short. The goddess Mischief stepping out of his brother's shadow. Thor to star in its very own TV show. So essentially, this is like a time traveling program with different variants or variations of Loki himself. So what is good, YouTube? Warstu here with a brand new series on this channel called the Loki Breakdown series. If you're new around here, which you could be because I'm doing Marvel content again, make sure to subscribe if you want to. Check us out on Instagram at Warstu, Twitter WarstuG, aka the Maverick. So this show literally picks up where Loki escaped during the Avengers movies. We're on about Loki, the Loki that didn't die. We're not about the Loki that got massacred by Thanos. We're on about the Loki that got the Tesseract and disappeared. That one. Remember? This isn't our Loki. This is our Loki from 2012 New York. So we're going to go in a weird order. We're going to go ending and then we're going to go around the episode. It's practically because I do these reviews very different. So the ending of this episode was very freaking cool. So the final cutscene was in Oklahoma in 1858 when someone appeared in a cloak and he or she burns the Minutemen alive before stealing their technology. We found out early in the episode that Loki from 2012 Avengers is actually hunting a variant of Loki. Interesting. With the help of Owen Wilson's character. Interesting. We are looking for the most dangerous Loki ever. As Owen Wilson characters, Mobius said earlier in the episode, you're just a pussycat. So I know exactly which variants of Loki this is, but I'm not going to be a douche and tell you exactly which it is because it is a pretty cool reveal in episode 2. So you'll have to wait for that. So that is really cool. So whoever this Loki is, they now have free will to piece around time as and when they see fit. If you did pay careful attention to the trailers, you can probably work out exactly which variation of Loki it is. So let's break it down in a complete random order. So the episode actually started in Flashback Central 2012 New York. We literally see Loki escape and it's like, what the frig? Tom Hiddleston should get an Oscar. He's just so good at this character. It's freaking insane. We get to see Tony Stark and Captain America back on the screen without crying. Lols. So then Loki disappears and he ends up in Mongolia Desert. He doesn't have a clue where he is. And this is where he's first introduced to the TVA, the Time Variance Organization. And Loki thinks he's a god and he's like, I'm burdened with glorious purpose. And they can't understand him because they're speaking in a different language, which is pretty funny. In come the TVA and Loki thinks he's the absolute boss, which he is. The boy is playing with the timeline without knowing he's playing with the timeline, which is pretty funny. And then the TVA arrest him, which Loki is kind of flabbergasted about how they could do that. They take him back to the TVA where he's got no power. The Infinity Stones are a joke. The Infinity Stones are used as paperweight. He tries to escape, but time works differently. He's got this necklace thing around his head and he literally keeps getting pushed around time. It's freaking funny. You get to see Tom Hiddleston topless and he has gained a little bit of a size, and the robot confirms Loki isn't a robot and he's not going to get a raise from the timeline. Now Loki is there to kind of be put on trial for his crimes against time. He gets a ticket so he doesn't get a raise. Incoming Time Variant Authority, and this is where Mobius, Owen Wilson's character, gets involved. The thing with all these Disney Plus shows is there's always a buddy cop system. At this time, it's Owen Wilson, Mobius, and Tom Hiddleston, Loki. So we get a bit of a Q&A about how everything works. The cartoon explains what the frick is going on. So we get some information about the timekeepers, the multiverse. The timekeepers had to step in to fix everything and merge everything into one singular timeline, the sacred team timeline. Now the timekeepers protect and preserve the proper full time, everyone and everything. And yes, pretty much everyone watching this show will be thinking, okay, if there's going to be a multiverse war and the timekeepers get overslayed, secret wars, yes, that could actually happen. Loki, being a variant, basically did something he shouldn't have, created a Nexus level event unchecked, would have resulted in a catastrophic multiverse war. Secret wars, that it is, isn't it? Kevin Feige said this show is the most important show in the MCU history, but let's be honest, guys, Kevin Feige says that about literally everything, doesn't he? So to stop the multiverse exploding, the time creators created the TVA, and now they step in to erase and restore the natural timeline, which is pretty interesting. Really is. So we go to the France region 1549. Mobius is there, and yeah, that kind of does look like Mephisto, but it's not Mephisto. And then they're like, oh, this is the sixth attack this week. It seems to be the same person. They have to leave and reset the timeline before everything goes to mush. Mobius is alerted that the Avengers Loki is there, and this is where it gets funny because it says gender fluid, which everyone thinks it means Loki is gender neutral. Read a comic book and then you kind of get the answer. So Mobius stops Loki from getting killed, and he essentially just wants to know what the frick Loki's motivations are. He shows him some flashback scenes. He shows him a scene of his mother dying because he told them to take the left. This obviously hasn't happened for Loki. This was the other Loki that didn't die. Loki tries to use his magical powers and looks like an absolute douche. And essentially what happens is one of the goons comes in, distracts Loki and Owen Wilson's character Mobius, and then Loki disappears and they're all looking for him, and he's not really disappearing, he's just having some fun. Then he comes back to the room where he sees all these flashback and flash forward scenes that haven't happened to him. He sees his mother dying, he sees Ragnarok. He also sees the death of himself, which is pretty interesting. Tom Hiddleston's acting was absolutely fire. When he's watching himself die, he really looked emotional. And then Mobius comes back in and was like, you tried to use the stone, didn't you? He's like, yeah, it didn't work. And then they essentially team up to take out Loki, or they try to, and the big reveal at the end is Tom Hiddleston's variant of Loki that we're seeing at the moment. It's like, yeah, the villain is Loki. We're tracking a much smarter version of yourself. So that's pretty much the episode in a nutshell. I was going to break it down in much depth, but I realized that wasn't me. But what variants of Loki could this be from the future, from the past? How did this variant get so strong? There's so many different variations of Loki. It could be President Loki, it could be Kid Loki, it could be the Young Avengers Loki, it could be King Loki, it could be Warstu Loki, it could be Matt Damon Loki, it could be Lady Loki. There's so many variants of what it actually could be, but I really feel like they have gone to town on this show. There's so much depth, there's so many Easter eggs popping around as we do see President Loki, or what looks like President Loki, in the trailers, so maybe that's a possibility. Like I said, it's really hard to review something when you've already seen episode 2, so I can't do any theory videos because I already know what's coming up in episode 2, so I'm having to hold back from information that we know. But the God of Mischief is definitely here, and it's kind of funny how Mobius kind of thinks he's a joke. He's like, yeah, you're a joke. Time works differently in the TVA HQ. No magic works, no Infinity Stones, which is pretty funny, really, when you think about it, because the Infinity Stones basically molded and shaped the whole of the MCU's whole 22 plus movie history, and they're like, yeah, they don't do anything here. So essentially what Loki's going to get out of helping them is they're not going to raise him from the timeline, and also he wants an audience with the timekeepers, who he refers to as space lizards or space aliens, which is pretty damn cool. And the aesthetics, the surroundings, the music, the intensity, this show for me definitely was very good. Episode 1 wasn't as good as episode 2, but this does not take anything away from episode 1. Episode 1 is freaking awesome. Episode 2 is even better. It gets much more intense. I can't wait for episode 3, but I've got to wait 2 weeks. Like always, guys, gonna bring you these short breakdowns, ending explains, roughly going through everything in my own way, the Warstu way. As we know, Loki's very special to this channel because it's the only video with Loki that I've got over 1 million views. So like always, guys, check us out on Instagram at Warstu, Twitter, WarstuG, and twitch.tv/Warstu. And I will catch you in another video very soon. Catch you later.